When you follow artists, it's always a bad thing to follow artists because they're cooler and more inspirational than you can ever be. So, thank you to both of you and to the two last presentations. I'm going to be very quick because I'm the person who's standing between you and cocktails. Firstly, I wanted to just thank everybody for showing up and for being kind of Ubuntu in action because it's been an incredible day. The caliber of speakers have been extraordinary, and the conversation and the sidebars that I've managed to be witness to have been remarkable as well. So I'm going to just say 4 or 5 things that I think are reflections from the day at a more sort of systemic level, which I hope will resonate. The first thing I think is that both the climate crisis and the health and the quest to improve public health are large, multi-year, multi-stakeholder, desperately complex, easy to go wrong. So they require a lot of thoughtful, collaborative effort. And it can sometimes feel like, where do you start? How big is this problem? And it can be dispiriting. And so what I thought I would do is try and say, from listening to all of you, what conclusions I've drawn from what it will take for us to make progress on this, and then perhaps what you can do in the back of your minds is say, how much of this have we got, and how much of this do we need to work on? Like, where are we in the plus column and where are we in the minus column? And then obviously you'll take away your own pluses and minuses, and hopefully that's instructive. So the first thing is, I think we need solutions in the climate and health space, and in that one, I am broadly extremely optimistic. I think we have smart people with enormous innovation. If you were to pick any time in human history from a progress and innovation moment, you would choose it now. The policy work that we've done for decades is something that we can build on. I think that on the solutions front, we should be incredibly optimistic. We are broadly, and if we don't have them now, the technology and AI in particular is going to give us a huge leg up in getting there. From genomics on the health front to a paper released just today by Systemic on the impact that you can see from AI and decarbonization, there's loads to be optimistic about. And the one caveat I'll have is, are those solutions ones that we dream up in labs or universities or think tanks, or are they solutions that we co-create by people on the ground most impacted by what we're trying to do? And how deeply connected are we to the beneficiaries of what we're trying to do? And maybe there's some thinking to be done there about what right sorts of relationships between people with power and knowledge and IP, and that I think we have some thinking to do about where the solutions come from and who own them. Secondly, capital. If there's one thing that I'm confident about is where there's innovation, capital follows. And we are creating enormous markets. And those markets in the climate space, there are 10 or 12 trillion dollar markets that will be in the space of decarbonization, which will be helpful because private capital will crowd in. I'm certain that the innovation in the health space will also crowd in enormous amounts of private capital. And here I have 2 caveats. The one is, private capital innovation has been aided historically by the state, by public investment in universities and research for decades and decades. And some of the most important things that we've seen, the internet, have emerged not from some private geniuses sitting in an investment bank, but by a collaboration between the public and the private sectors. And the withdrawal from the role of the state, both at home and abroad, if it were to become a global trend, would be an enormously negative thing. So, re-winning the idea that the state has a powerful role to play in innovation and in equity, and it has a business in doing that, is something that I think is very much up for grabs. And we've seen the consequences of that globally, and that is tens of millions of lives, so it's not abstract, and we can see the risks of that occurring domestically. And I think that there are 2 other points in capital. One is, I think this makes this moment a wildly important moment for philanthropy. not to try and fill the bucket of what's been drained away by the reduction in aid, because just mathematically that can't be done. But by being a source of innovation, leverage, galvanization, mobilization, philanthropy has an outsized important role to be playing right now. It's to kind of fuel Ubuntu, it's to fill the gap, it's to help us find solutions. And so what Welcome is doing is exceptionally important, and the rest of the philanthropic sort of infrastructure, I would say now's your time. Like, this is a really interesting time to be a philanthropist or a foundation. And then finally, I'll say, I think there are some areas, both in climate and in public health, where they're just outright market failures, where the market is not going to respond in the way that it needs to do in order to achieve equity. And in those areas, we're going to have to defend the role of public investment, whether it's in vaccines or whether it's in bridging the gap in the decline in productivity in regen ag. There are areas where there aren't just simple, easy market solutions, and we've just got to make peace with that and not fetishize that every solution, every problem has a market solution. Facts. I think we need to do a much better job in framing the problem, in framing the solution, and a much better job in countering populism. We have been supine in the face of populism for too long. And we have to be more robust in calling out it is ethically and empirically fraudulent. And the fact that people who have bad solutions and tell people lies and they get away with it is our fault. It's on us. Because if we've got better ideas and better solutions, and we do, and we're losing the public battle for ideas, then there's something that we need to go and have a deep, long reflection in the mirror about what we do. So communication, narrative, framing, messaging, storytelling, culture, this stuff we need to pay much, much more attention to. And if you permit a digression, what's happening in the immigration front with eliding all evils that are occurring in immigration, with a small number of people coming across the channel in meaningless numbers in small boats and ascribing all immigrants to that small, tiny phenomenon, is the same thing. What happens with populism is we capitulate to it and we adjust our politics to go in the direction of populists, because we think that will inoculate us from populists, and we lose when we stray our narrative into their terrain. And that terrain is the road to hell, because you will never out-demagogue a demagogue. The demagogues will always win. So we have to stay firm in positive, fact-based solutions. We have to call out the lies for what they are, and we have to be more robust about that. And on that one, there's everything to play for. I'm an optimist, but I think we've got hard work to do. And then on leadership, I think that what Mary said to us, and what my direct experience in South Africa has shown, and what's happening in the United States right now is illustrating, is that leadership really, 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 really matters. Because when you're in a world that seems to be fragmenting, populist leaders who prey on our vulnerabilities and exploit these moments are super empowered. And it makes a different kind of leader much, much more important. And in the space of climate and in health, speaking out clearly, showing that we're not going to succumb to the siren songs of what's going on, and how we're going to create an ecosystem of leadership is vitally, vitally important. And I would say, if you're going to invest in things, invest in leadership. And start with the young, but produce a set of leaders who are capable of dealing with complexity and moral conundrums and pain without pandering to the lowest common denominator, who are able to cause us to lift up our heads and be more generous and be more kind. And then finally, I'm going to end with Ubuntu, because I think that there are two kinds of it. One is the Ubuntu that occurs at the kind of multilateral level, which is stitching back together all the careful alliances and treaties and frameworks that are necessary to make progress in both climate and health. Absolutely essential. And as quickly as they're being torn up, we have to be reconstituting them, because the people who are tearing them up will come to regret it. They'll come to regret it, because we all have far more to gain as a planet and a civilization by this web of multilateralism. And we have to find the forces that are defending multilateralism, and we will not make progress in climate or health unless we reaffirm the value of it and we stitch those things back together as hard as we can. And then the bottom-up approach is what's happening in this room. And if there's one thing that gives me hope and optimism and makes me extremely confident about what we can do, it's groups like this getting together and innovating and solving and being generous and helping each other out and supporting each other's startups and helping us think through the breakthroughs that we need, because that will be the DNA of how progress is made. It's here and amongst ourselves. So I think that these fields, if you then do those as your sort of checklist, I think we're about like 60%. And the other 40% we've got if we just get up off our asses and do work. And I think that that's the thing that makes me feel like ultimately really optimistic, is that the parts of it that are to fight for, I would back us to win. So I'm incredibly grateful you came. I'm incredibly grateful to our partners who made this possible. You will not hear the end of us in this space, and we will continue to work. We're very excited by the Resilient Cities Conference that we're hosting in December. We want to take the ideas and the innovation and the thoughts and solutions that come from amongst you and drop it into a forum so that it goes out from London to 50 cities around the world so we can scale things well. And now, please get up, go to the third floor, and let's drink and be merry and meet new people. Thank you.